Pastikan Anda
but
tekan tombol
who
like dan subscribe,
still
aktifkan
are
loncengnya.
convinced he's alive. Why are the shayateen of the jinn convinced that he is alive? Can't they see? Don't they have eyes to see? The answer is simple. The Jasad was shown sitting on the throne because this is now the time when the Jasad will sit on the throne. And he'll be holding on to the staff. And so long as the min sa'a, the staff is a sa'a with sword. Min sa'a was seen. So min sa'a and sword cannot be the same. This asa. Asa is the staff. Min sa'a is something connected with the staff. Only when the min sa'a of the staff is consumed by dabbatul art, only then will the jinn realize we've been taken for a ride. We've been deceived. Meaning, this is not Sulaiman. We have no obligation to obey him. And so what happened was that when he died and we buried him, the jinn did not know that he was dead because Dajjal was sitting on the throne, holding on to the staff. And because of a certain property of the staff that the Quran describes as the min sa'a of the staff, Dajjal was able, listen carefully, to intervene in time in such a way that he could bring time forward and backward and present Sulaiman alive and walking and talking and eating and deceive the jinn. At that time it must have been something fantastic to think about, but today it's commonplace. You could see it on television. You can go on television and see Muhammad Ali Jinnah talking and walking. Huh? I don't know whether we have videos of Iqbal, do we? No. But Jinnah, you have. So, images of someone who is dead showing the person alive is commonplace today. Commonplace. Because we have the technology. But the jinn didn't know about that. And so up to this day, as I speak, they are still following the orders of Dajjal. Dajjal is still sitting on the throne. But of course the shadow we are only seeing the shadow. The real person will emerge only after the 3 stages of the shadow. Intaliku ila zillin zi salasi shu'ab. Proceed to a shadow which will appear in 3 parts. Which surah? Suratul Mursalat. Only when the 3 stages of the shadow have ended will Dajjal appear in person. And when you appear in person, you appear as a human being. As a young man, powerfully built, a Jew, Orthodox Jew, with the curls at his side. And then he would stand up in Jerusalem and declare, I am the Messiah. You all know this already. The only one who doesn't know this is the Maulanas, the Muftis and the Shuyukh. They're under that room, so leave them alone. You all know this already. And so, he's still at work up to now. That's how they can bring cryptocurrencies. Yes. And that's how they can bring one currency for all of mankind. That computer has not as yet been built. No. Which can manage one currency for all of mankind. They have not built that computer as yet. So where is the computer? It's the jinn. It's called blockchain technology. Where is Colonel Ashfaq? He's not here. It was he who reminded me. He said, this is the method of the Prophet. I teach you, and you teach them, and they teach them, and they teach them. The Prophet ﷺ does not have to address 150,000 people every weekend. Blockchain technology. They have this facility of manufacturing very cute expressions. So he's at work. And those who are following him, the Judeo-Christian Zionist Alliance, are being assisted by them, the jinn. Two people, evil, one human beings and the other jinn, in alliance with each other. And these two people in this alliance are so dangerous. They are kuffar, they reject, they don't believe in a life hereafter. No. They are so dangerous that there is a surah of the Quran in which Allah refers to them 31 times in one single ayah. There's nothing else like this in the Quran, nowhere. Nowhere in the Quran can you find one ayah repeated 31 times in one surah. It is extraordinary. It is as though Allah is knocking on your head 31 times. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. He's talking about two people. Who are the two? Ya ma'ashar al-jinni wal-ins. A jamaat of human beings who are monstrously evil, and a jamaat of jinn who are shayateen, who are monstrously evil, and the two are in alliance with each other. And this is what is explaining the ascendancy of modern Western civilization and the state of Israel. But at the time of Iqbal, I don't think anyone would have been able to understand this. We have to excuse them. We live in a different age today from them. So then, the minsa of the staff, nasiya means time, nasi. إِنَّمَا النَّسِيءُ زِيَادَةٌ لِلْكُفْرِ, says Allah in Surah At-Tawbah. But when you tamper with the system of time, when you corrupt the system of time, that is the road to ever increasing kufr. إنما النسيء زيادة للكفر. Excuse me. When you tamper with the system of time that Allah has created, when you corrupt the system of time that Allah has created, when you accept, bandar jaise, that a month can have 28 days, and a month can have 29 and 30, and can have 31 days. When your Nabi and my Nabi, he said, a month can have 29 days or 30 days. So when we all accept, bandar jaise, this corruption of the system of time, this betrayal of the system of time that has come from Allah, Allah says, you are on the road to ever increasing kufr. That is min sa'a, a property of the stuff with which you can intervene in time, and you can corrupt time. If this is too difficult for them to understand, I can't do anything further for them. I can't help them. I am explaining the subject simply and with clarity. If you are still confused, that's your problem, not mine. So then, what is dabbatul ard, which comes and will come, because has not as yet happened, and will destroy, this is consuming, destroy, this property of the stuff connected with time. I believe you will easily dismiss all that you find in the tafasir, that they are termites. Yes. Yep. 5 rupiah ka akal. That's all. And remember, when I came to Pakistan as a student in 1964, if you had 5 rupiah in your pocket, you okay? Oh yes. 5 rupees. Because we travel by bus. We can't afford rickshaw. And the bus to Sadar was only Chawandi. You don't know what's Chawandi. So 5 rupiah in your pocket, you're okay. Don't look down at 5 rupiah. So what is it? It can't be termites. It has to be something which will destroy the miraculous quality of the stuff, the heart of the stuff, the spiritual heart of the stuff, which gave you the capacity, if you're holding on to the stuff, to intervene in time. It is as though it is something which destroys ruhaniyat. Now I come to my thinking. And when I give you my views, khabardar, you don't accept my views unless you are convinced that I am correct. Unless you are convinced that I am correct. Otherwise, you know what? I will leave behind me gramophone records. And if I make a mistake, you'll continue to make that mistake. I can make mistakes. Iqbal says only stones don't make mistakes. So that's why we need to leave behind me people who think critically and never accept anything uncritically. My teacher taught me that way. The Darul Uloom doesn't teach the students that way, to think. That's why we're in the pathetic situation in which we are today. Because we no longer think. And when we do think, we don't go to the Quran. We go to Hadith. And we go to Mufti Sahib, and the last place in the world we go to is the Quran to think. So I came to the conclusion, and I can be wrong, that what we are experiencing now is preparatory to the destruction of the Minsa of the staff. And in the process of launching this attack on the Minsa of the staff, the attack is being launched on the spiritual heart of mankind. And the most vulnerable of all in mankind are the children. The spiritual heart of the staff is connected with the capacity to think, the capacity for internal sight. And memory is critically important for thinking. If your memory becomes weak, you cannot be a great thinker. And one of the reasons why we recite the Quran every day, rows, is because the Quran has shifa in it. And one of the first things that shifa does is to keep our memory strong. If the memory is powerful, you can be, I wish I knew the Urdu for it, versatile. Versatile means the same man who is a medical doctor can become a nuclear scientist and become the greatest poet ever. And that same man, if you give him a piece of wood, will build a furniture for you beautifully. He's excellent here and there and there and there and there. Anywhere he turns, he's excellent. This is versatility. What is the Urdu for that? Harpanwala. Harpanwala.
Knows all.
Whatever it is.
Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades. And I see the effect on the bees, that they could no longer navigate. And so honey production is declining around the world. And I read the description of the malhama, that birds flying in the sky would fall down because the atmosphere is so corrupted, they can no longer navigate. If there is something which can be so destructive of the atmosphere that bees can no longer navigate to go to the flower for honey and produce honey, and birds can no longer fly, what can it do? What can it do to the child? And when I look at the children today, I see it, that memory is declining in the children. I teach them because parents did not teach them. I say, okay, first surah, Suratul Fatiha, second one, Suratul Baqarah, third, Suratul Ali Imran, fourth, Suratul Nisa, fifth, Suratul Ma'idah. Now go, give you 5 minutes, go walk, memorize. Come back. Now you tell me, first 5, you tell me. The children who have the smartphones and who live in the city have the least memory. And the children from the countryside, Gaon, who are not exposed to the smartphone, the internet, the electromagnetic waves around us today, and who don't live in the city, they have the best memory. So our Prophet said, largely perhaps because of Dabbatul Ard. He said the time will come when a believer, in order to protect his deen, would have to flee to the mountain sides. Why? Because the mountain blocks You can't use your cell phone. He'll have to flee to the mountainsides and the places where rain falls. Take with him some sheep and goats. So I have come to the conclusion, and I can be wrong, Dabbatul Ard is not some creature like this pathetic termite that my critics accept, but rather the Dabbatul Ard is something which attacks and destroys the spiritual heart of the stuff, and therefore can damage the spiritual heart of the human being. And I identify it with the electromagnetic waves now coming with 3G and 4G and 5G and 6G and so on. Finally, one last thing. There is a second reference to Dabbatul Ard in the Quran. Only two. This is the first one with the stuff, consuming it. The second one is that Dabbatul Ard is a sign of the last day, and that they would either speak to mankind or damage mankind. The Arabic text can be read two ways. If it's being spoken, of course, we know exactly what it is. But when it's not spoken and it's written, then they put in these diacritical marks, Fatha and Kesra and Dhamma. And you can change it around because this didn't come from Allah. This is human beings. So they wrote it, the Dabbatul Ard tukallimuhum, would speak to mankind. And I said, I want to take that with a pinch of salt, because I still have a mind with which to think. Speaking to mankind. The other one is taklimuhum, would injure you and damage you. I said, that makes more sense to me. So I have departed from this. The overwhelming majority of the scholars of Islam and the Muslims accept that one. So they will have to solve their problem. I can't solve it for them. But because I accept that the Quran is saying that the Dabbatul Ard will damage you, this one makes a lot of sense. And the damage is already taking place. Similar with the one that I began, that the sign of all signs of the last day, وَإِنَّهُ لَعَلَمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ. But they say no. وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ. He is the knowledge of the hour. I say, you got trouble. When you say that Jesus, alayhi salam, is the knowledge of the hour, and Allah says, no, the knowledge of the hour is only with me. He doesn't have the knowledge of the hour. Muhammad alayhi salam does not have the knowledge of the hour. Only Allah has the knowledge of the hour. Even in the gospel, up to this day, their gospel says only the Father knows the hour. The Son does not know the hour. So this one is transparently false. That every single copy of the Quran you pick up today, they have put in, and He is the knowledge of the hour, when it should be, He is a sign of all signs of the hour. I've given you two instances where it's not the Quran which has been changed. Don't you make that mistake of saying that Imran has said someone changed the Quran, because you should be thrown into a garbage bin for speaking such a falsehood about me. It's not the Quran which has changed. it is the diacritical marks, the fatha and the kasra and the dhamma, which were not there in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. There was no fatha and kasra and dhamma. It is when non-Arabs entered in the ummah to help us to read the Quran, they put in the fatha and kasra. So who put it in? The human beings put it in. And human beings can do good things and can also do bad things. Yeah, but guess what my critics say? Imran says that they changed the Quran. This is what these pathetic critics say. They claim, I say the Quran has been changed. They have nothing else to respond. So they use this garbage. I have finished my topic. I've offered you my view on Dabbatul Ard. And again, unfortunately, I'm a solitary voice. No one else has given this view. So again, I ask you to kindly study. Don't accept what I have said until you study the subject. And only when you are convinced that I am correct, only then should you accept my view. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We return today to the major signs of the last day. And amongst them, of course, the most important of all, Allah says in the Quran, بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ وَإِنَّهُ لَعَلَمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ, that Nabi Isa alayhi salam is the sign of all signs of the last hour, meaning his return. And amongst the signs of the last day, of course, the false Messiah, Dajjal, the false Messiah, and Gog and Magog. But in addition to all of them, there's also one more that the Quran speaks of as Dabbatul Ard, the creature of the earth. And so today, as we return to the major signs of the last day, we devote attention one more time to Dabbatul Ard. It's a little difficult subject, and so some people are confused. And they have been asking me, would you kindly speak and explain the subject one more time? I always try to speak slowly, and I try to speak clearly, with clarity, and I try to speak using simple language and following a logical train of thought. And if I do this and you're still confused, then that's not my problem. That's your problem. Okay? And when we want to turn to this subject, we go to Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam, because Dabbatul Ard is connected with Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam. And he is a king, and he is a prophet. And he is ruling the world from Jerusalem, the holy state of Israel, but we refer to it as the Khilafah state. A ruling state in the sense that no rival or combination of rivals can threaten it. That's a ruling state. And one day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him what I recognize to be a vision. But you must check it out in the Quran in Surah As-Sad. And he sees someone sitting on his throne. And from the time he sees this vision on his throne, ثُمَّ أَنَبْ, it terrifies him to such an extent. he immediately turns to Allah in a state of repentance. Did he commit any sin? No, 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 no. It is what he saw, it is what Allah gave him in a vision that caused him to recoil with this fright in his heart. What did he see? Let us turn to the Quran. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولقد فتنا سليمان. We gave him a vision which was fitna. It caused him distress. وَأَلْقَيْنَا عَلَى كُرْسِيهِ جَسَدٍ. And we cause a jasad to be placed sitting on his throne. Now, sometimes Allah gives us a vision. We take 5,000 years to understand it. But Sulaiman alayhi salam has wisdom. His wisdom is such, in a twinkling of an eye he understands the vision. And here is his response to the vision. And in the response, you can read and understand what is his understanding of the vision. قَالَ رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي. His response was first of all to seek forgiveness from Allah. Not for any specific sin, not at all. Rather, that when he wants to ask for something, he first begins by making istighfar. When you want to ask for something, first say, I seek forgiveness for my sins, and then ask for what you want to ask. You know what they ask for. They want a Mercedes-Benz and they want a big house in defense housing. You have defense in? Yeah, big house. And when you and I ask, you know what we ask for? We ask for knowledge. That's the difference. So he asks, Rabbi Firli, kindly forgive me my sins. وَهَبْ لِي مُلْكًا لَا يَنْبَغِي لِأَحَدٍ مِّن بَعْدِي. What does it mean? And grant that none can inherit my kingdom after me. And grant that there can never be another kingdom like mine. So in this, you have to think to find out what is his understanding of the vision. It's not there in black and white. You have to think. That's the one thing Pakistan has not been doing for a long time. Yes. And the Indians and Pakistanis and Bangladeshis, and indeed more than that, according to Iqbal, is the whole ummah has stopped thinking. Who said that? If I say that, oh my God, you'll be very angry with me, but when Iqbal says it, you know, who is Iqbal? Yeah, this ummah stopped thinking 300 years ago. I thought it was 5, but somebody corrected me, said no, 3. He said 300 years. And now they don't want you to think. You send your son to the Darul Uloom, he goes in the factory, he comes out the factory. You're not allowed to think. And when you do think, they warn the whole world, listen, he's only thinking, this is only his opinion. Be careful of that man. He's thinking, very dangerous thing to do, to think. Ah yes, what a pathetic state of affairs. You have to think because Allah says, I send this Quran to people who think. Not once, He said it several times. I have sent this Quran liqawmi yatafakkarun, people who think. And when you think, you must not think the way they drive on the roads of Lahore. When you think, you must think in a disciplined way. You must think using a methodology of thinking. You must follow the art of critical thinking. And that's in short supply today. They don't teach it in the universities. So now then, what did he see that he should make this dua? This is the only Khilafah state on earth. And Allah said to the angels, I'm sending them on earth for this reason, so that the Khilafah state can be established. Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. This is the first page of the book of history. And now it is realized. And there is a holy state in Jerusalem. And it is the ruling state in the world. And Banu Israel are ruling the world. Why should he make a dua? I don't want anyone to inherit this state after me. Meaning, when I die, khatam, everything must go. And there must never be another state after me comparable to mine. What it is he saw, you have to think. And when you think, the answer is plain and clear. If they don't want to think, leave them alone. I wish I could shout it a little louder. If they don't want to think, leave them alone and move on with your life. They are equivalent in history to rubbish. What he saw sitting on the throne, Allah showed it to him, was someone who was really, 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 really wicked. Someone who was evil. And that evil man sitting on my throne, he wants to inherit my kingdom. Is that so difficult to recognize? When you do a little bit, what's 5 rupiah of thinking? Huh? He saw someone monstrously evil sitting on his throne. Allah showed it to him. And he wants to inherit my kingdom. One of the reasons why he could read the vision so quickly was because he had wisdom. But there's a second reason. The second reason is that Allah has already taught every prophet. Every prophet of Allah has already been taught about that fella. So he knows him. So who could he be who is so monstrously evil and who wants to inherit the Khilafah state, Holy Israel? He wants to rule the world from Jerusalem. And this represents such a threat that Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam said, I prefer that my kingdom should perish rather than that he should rule the world from my holy state. There's only one answer to that, only one. Allah taught every prophet of Allah about Dajjal. So he knows the subject. And so we came to the conclusion that the Jasad sitting on the throne is Dajjal. We don't have the time today to dwell on the word Jasad, what it means and so on, but I wrote this book, the Quran, the Quran, Dajjal and the Jasad. It is, I'm sure, the first book of its kind ever written. Ever written. This is Allah's kindness to me, that several of my books break new ground, written for the first time. And if Dajjal is sitting on the throne and he wants to inherit the kingdom, it is the false Messiah who wants to get the world to accept that he is the true Messiah. He's known as Al-Masih al-Dajjal. So he can take the Jews for a ride and get them to believe that he is the Messiah, when indeed the Messiah is the son of Mary. And in the process of seeking to deceive them, he must, number one, he must liberate the Holy Land for the Jews. But Allah had expelled them from the Holy Land and banned their return. And Allah has said the only time they would ever come back to Jerusalem is when Gog and Magog bring them back. So there's a link between Dajjal and Gog and Magog. Even a teenager will be able to understand me. So why can't the scholars understand? Not only must he liberate the Holy Land, he must bring the Jews back to the Holy Land to reclaim it as their own 2,000 years after Allah had expelled them. The most momentous event in history, in the religious history of mankind, will unfold on that day, when the Jews are brought back to reclaim Jerusalem as their own. It had not as yet happened when Iqbal was alive. But it's happened now, we are alive. And if you don't seek an explanation for that event in the Quran, and you are content to simply eat your biryani and go home and sleep, and of course I like biryani, then you can be considered a scholar. Is that scholarship? And then he has to restore a state of Israel in the Holy Land and make them believe that this is Holy Israel. And then he has to cause this Israel to rule the world. But he is a shadow in three parts. Suratul Mursalat, a shadow in three parts. Suratul Mursalat of the Quran. So the first part of the shadow, he gave us a ruling state. And in the second part of the shadow, he gave us another ruling state. But they don't teach this in political science. And in the third part of the shadow, he gives us the last ruling state. The first was Britain, Pax Britannica. The second was United States, Pax Americana. And now the third would be Israel, Pax Judaica. And so this man sitting on the throne is Dajjal. He wants to rule the world. As soon as Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam made this dua, Allah accepted it. And when he died, the kingdom collapsed. Finished. Khatam ho gaya. And the Jews did not know why they have lost it. It was traumatic for them. They're grieving, their hearts are broken. And it was in that state that Allah gave them the good news that He's going to send someone who will be their prophet, and who will be known as the Messiah, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, who will be their prophet, not ours. He's coming to them, not to us. Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is sent to all mankind, but he is sent to them, not to us. And when he comes back to them and not to us. This is elementary thinking. That when Allah has said something in the Quran, you'd make a fool of yourself if you say something else. So he died, kingdom collapsed. But then the Quran spoke about his death. It is, I think, in Surah An-Naml. We have any Hafiz? And strange language now in the Quran as we come to Dabbatul Ard, or the creature of the earth. The Quran spoke in language which seems to have been misunderstood. And when you look in the books of tafsir, the commentaries of the Quran, the classical ones up to the most modern, they say that when Sulaiman alayhi salam died, no one knew he was dead. He died while sitting on his throne, holding on to his staff. And no one knew he was dead. And he remained like this for a long time. Until some termites, they came and they started to bite at the bottom of the staff. I don't know how many years it took. I can't help laughing now. I don't know how many years it took. And then the staff lost its balance. And then the body collapsed. And in the Caribbean, when we tell stories to our children, we end the story by saying, and crick, crack, the wire bends. And that's the way the story ends. Crick, crack, the wire bends. And that's the way the story ends. That's how you tell stories to children. And that's what I have to say for this. Yes. So all of this time while he was dead, no one knew he was dead. Nobody brought food for him. He stopped eating food. So by Q, why is he not eating? Nobody brought water for him to drink. Q, why is he not drinking? He never goes to the toilet. Q, kya ho gaya? He's not talking to anyone. Kya ho gaya? He doesn't go on sleep. Kya hua bhai? It seems as though the commentators of the Quran want us to believe that everybody went to sleep and no one could observe. He mar gaya. This is the pathetic stuff that you find in the commentaries of the Quran. Check it out yourself. Me, I laugh when I read it, but you might choose to respond differently. Well then, if this is not what actually happened, this that is fit for a storybook, what it is that happened? The Quran tells us that Allah had ordered the shayateen of the jinn to work for Sulaiman alayhi salam in his wisdom. And I don't have to seek to penetrate that to explain to you why. Some of them are in chains, mukarranina fil asfad. And Sulaiman orders and they must obey. And we are told of all the things they were doing for him. Like building utensils, manufacturing utensils for the temple. And when Sulaiman died, alayhi salam, all of us knew he was dead. And we made the Salatul Janazah, of course, in accordance with our Sharia, and we buried him. So who was it who did not know he was dead? The jinn. The shayateen of the jinn who are in chains, who are not in our world of space and